Welcome to the Morning Formation. This episode is powered by Act Now Education.
While I do executive protection, it's not that I just protect executives. I protect celebrities. I protect high net worth families. I protect sometimes valuables, and sometimes, I've flown around the country in a private jet protecting Botox and a scientist,
Warriors, fall in. It's time for formation. Today I'm joined with a Marine Corps combat veteran who transitioned into being a private security professional after his service in the military. His professional accolades don't stop there. He's also the host of the best private security podcast available on the downloadable market, and it's called Executive Protection Lifestyle. He is certainly a must follow on all of his social media accounts because his content is not only entertaining, but the captions themselves explain the safety and security lessons to be learned from that content. Since his transition out of the Marines, he's worked in over 60 countries all across the world and has worked with countless different various types of demographics out there. The person that I have today, the professional that I have today, is also the owner of his own security business called Bravo Research Group. So today I am absolutely honored to be joined with Mr. Byron Rodgers. Welcome to the Morning Formation, sir.
Boom. What's up, brother? Hey, man, it's an honor. And that intro was super dope to be scientific about it. That was real clean, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me, man.
It's easy to have that type of intro when you're interviewing a professional that has done so much over his entirety of his career. I mean, honestly, you've been into the military. You own your own business. You're an author. You're on podcasts. You're on every social media platform out there, putting out some great content. So, hey, guys like you make it easy for me to give that type of intro. So thank you for giving me your time today.
Yeah, man.
And just to start things off, Byron, looking back at your time, specifically in combat, looking back now, what are your thoughts on the leadership lessons that you gained during your deployments? And how does it all complement and fit in with what you're doing today?
Man, that's awesome. I was actually speaking with another Marine who's in a leadership position today at a major company, private security firm out there in the game. And, one of the things I know I took with me from the Marine Corps is just troop welfare, man. Troop welfare. You're only as good as the guys you serve with and that you have, that you're on the ground with. As a manager and as a leader, we're tasked with driving results through other human beings. And the metric that really denotes how effective I am has everything to do with the quality of the work product I can drive through other human beings who are not with me most of the time. And so understanding how to get these guys to not just perform, but want to perform at a high level is really where everything is, where we win and where we lose in this battle. And that comes primarily from two things. One, troop welfare. Your guys knowing that you really legitimately care about them. When I get a guy in my company, Bravo Research Group, I'm like, look, dude, I'm here for better or for worse to help you with your future. I'm going to serve you as best I can as a leader. I'm going to try and create as much opportunity as I can here, but ultimately my goal is to develop you to become a decision maker, a juggernaut, a leader here. And you will organically, if I can't provide opportunities for elevation, you will organically move on to something that's even better than what I can offer. And that's going to be a good day for me. And that's what I'm all about. And while I have those guys, because I don't want to have a bunch of followers, I want to have a wolf pack full of alphas. I want to have a pride full of alphas. So these guys have to be just as good as me when I'm not there. I got to sit in front of my client, look him in the eyes and say, hey, I'm going to leave you with this guy tonight. I'm going to leave this guy outside your house tonight instead of me. And it's got to be okay, right? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is servant leadership, man. Like I make sure everyone on my team knows that everyone is a leader. Everyone is a follower, and you need to take pride in being able to wear either hat at any given time. I serve my tribe by getting up, being up overhead like the Air Force, making decisions, meeting with clients, fighting for increases, raises, improving the quality of the program, improving the quality of the training budget that we have. And they cover me by rendering a high quality work product every single day. So my clients, principals, stakeholders, and customers have nothing but confidence in what it is we're doing, how we're performing and executing. So they know their investment, they're making a wise investment, especially because security doesn't make them money, right? It's an insurance policy, So I have to show them, and I have to have agents that are demonstrating value in selling security 24/7. And I do that through focusing on troop welfare, which is always kind of weird. A lot of guys that weren't in the military are always kind of shocked by that. And then secondly, I do it by servant leadership. I serve you by making this a better environment for you, coming up with SOPs, fighting battles in the offices and with corporate that you guys don't have to fight, like having to carry bags and deal with the client's dogs and stuff. Like the stuff that they try to get us to do that we're not supposed to do, that take away from the mission. I'm fighting those battles, optimizing you guys, serving you this way, and I need you to serve me from the front by executing on objectives, letting me know what's going out there in the front line so we can make decisions as a team and meet the need and hopefully avoid or meet the enemy if and when the time comes.
It's a great answer, man. Troop welfare and being a servant leader. I actually had some content that I put out this week on Instagram talking about being a servant leader.
Yeah, man,
And
that's the code.
That's a great exchange, though. Honestly, just simply caring about the individual and understanding that they're not robots, and they really, as long as they know that someone's in their corner, like vouching for them and pushing for them to have the best environment possible, man. That's all you can ask for out of a great leader. So,
Yeah,
I
man.
really appreciate what you underlined with there. And
Thanks, brother.
Byron, man, I know for myself, I think back to my entire life, professional life experiences, and even as a child growing up and those teenage years, man, I think of a lot of those mile markers, those lessons that I've learned that contributed to who I am today. So can you tell me a time that you think about often, or even today, that resonates with you as far as a lesson learned that might have contributed to your survivability, your professionalism, or even your resiliency that you have today?
It's interesting, man. I wish I had a cooler one come to mind, but re- realistically, man, what comes to mind, honestly, is the fact that I love my parents. They did a great job. They did the best they could. I'm not mad at them or anything. But the fact is, I had to spend a lot of time alone as a kid. So my dad, I was born in the Bahamas. My dad was a prominent businessman in the Bahamas. He's in, some magazine as one of the most successful businessmen or whatever. And, my mom, single mother, middle class, lower middle class. And so I was the man of the house back here in the US. And in the US, like I was often the only. So, Washington State, Federal Way, Des Moines, and then eventually Gig Harbor, there's a lot of Samoans, a lot of Tongans. I was often like kind of the only chubby little black kid running around. Then when I go to the Bahamas, I was, the only American. And it was like, hey, fat boy, the American. Yeah, look at the American. He's soft, So I had to fight like all the little Bahamian kids in the summer when I go live with my dad. I go fight all the Tongans and stuff when I go back to Washington State. Then I moved to kind of a more preppier environment, and I was like the only black dude, and it was all white kids, and they were all extra nice. Honestly, it was great. But
Yeah.
and then when I go to the Bahamas, I'd be alone all the time, and because my dad was always at work, and I'd go out and spearfish by myself, and I'd go out and my dad was a really strict disciplinarian martial arts guy. Started one of the first tactical teams in the Bahamas. Big private security, one of the biggest private security companies in the island. But I spent a lot of time alone, and it was just me and my God. And like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, he gave me a little boat, and I'd be like, I'm like 8, 9, out in the
Wow.
ocean by myself,
Wow.
spearfishing, throwing fish in my little dinghy, out there, bro. With my little electric engine, die on me, and I'd have to swim it back. And like getting thrown around by waves, and like I spent so much time alone. But I realized really quick, because all the like things that kids usually have to prop themselves up on were gone. And so I just realized real early in life, like it's just me and my God and my capabilities and his grace. And I need to be formidable. and I need to be resilient. And ain't no one cares about your feelings. All that matters in the end is what you can achieve. And so I, at a young age, started to really be kind of like, you got to perform. You've got to be able to do. If you want something to get done, you got to get in there, and you got to give God something to work with, which is your action, you know? And so I, as a young man, I just started to build in that whole, like, hey, no one's coming. When God wants to get something done on this planet, he sends a man, he sends a woman. And guess what? You're here and he's watching you, to see what you're going to do with these 50 trillion cells that we're wearing this technology on this crazy ride called life that no one has any idea what's even going on. All I know is what I can get done by the grace of God with this hard work in this body. And so I started to, kind of live my life in that way. And then it carried over into, when we're in the military, and everyone's looking for a hero, looking for a champion, like rounds are cracking off and everyone's like looking like, what are we going to do? Who's going to do something? And it was like, you know what? I never wanted to be the one, dude. I never wanted to be the one, but I found myself in a lot of situations having to be, because if we stop moving, man, stillness is death. And so, I had to get out in front of my squad and get them in motion by, being the guy who's going to kick in the door first. I had to really lean into that throughout my life. And then when I got out of the military, I was like, hey, so, either you figure out this equation, you find a new fight, you find a new mission, or you just die tired, bro. And you were just a kind of cool, kind of funny dude who just got out and didn't freaking matter. And you start drinking and whatever, and you fade into darkness and nobody cares, man. So you want them to care, you better win. Okay. And how you going to win? Hard mother stinking work. And so that was really that's always been my ethos, man. Other people pray about it. Other people, you either have results or you have good reasons. And I just turned into the type of person who was like, I ain't never been the biggest, never been the baddest, never been the smartest. I'm 5'10", about 240. I'm not like that impressive, but you know what? I'm gonna work hard. And when I got blown up in Iraq and I had an out of body experience, and I remember praying and asking God for a second chance at life when I was like in another dimension. And I just remember saying, like, you know what? I may never be everything you wanted me to be, but if you send me back, I'm gonna go. And I said this, I was like, I will go so hard in the paint. I was like, I will go at this life I will never waste this opportunity again. And so that was kind of my Phoenix moment that really amplified it. And when I wake up in the morning at 4 a.m. after going to bed at 11, it hurts every single time, but it hurts good because I am a warrior and I'm going to war against weaker versions of myself. I'm going to war. I'm going to war with this life, to superimpose my will in alignment with the mission I believe I was sent here to achieve.
Man, motivating, very motivating. And
Thank you.
I love how everything started for you, as a child growing up. And it's very similar to me as well. Like my old man was drafted in 71 for Vietnam, was a 20-year Army veteran, Ranger, hardcore guy, heavy-handed, very strict, very disciplined. And
Yeah.
I learned, like, at the end of the day, nothing beats hard work. And I wasn't the biggest either, man. I played football, wrestled, ran track. I actually moved from Hawaii to the state of Ohio when I was 13.
Yeah.
And if you know anything about the Midwest, man, they love their sports. Wrestling, football, then it was highly, highly, highly competitive out there, but a lot of great people out there as well. So I know what it feels like to be sort of the minority. Growing up out in the middle of the cornfields out there and being originally from the islands, you and I kind of share that same thing. But you mentioned your IED experience, man. Like, so this right here is a reminder. That's part of the det cord that was used when my tire ran it over out near Talafar in Iraq, and it detonated the mortar rounds that were buried on the side of the road. I was fortunate that they were positioned in the wrong
formation.
degree or the wrong. Yeah. So the Humvee and the road took the majority, but this right here is a reminder for me that when things happen, they happen when you least expect them. It's not like it's not like training where, okay, guys, we're putting on our gear and here we go. Right. No, it's when you're looking at the little bird or the little butterfly, you're staring at the stars. That's when you get sucker punched. And that's what that this right here is a
Yeah,
reminder
bro.
for me.
That's
So
beautiful,
yeah.
dude. That's funny. Spoken like a real man that's been blown up before. I hadn't spoken to anyone who's been blown up for a while, man, and it's refreshing because you have no idea. One of them, so I caught 5 IEDs, right? One of them, I had a hint, and I remember we were going around the corner, and it was like a perfect corner where we had to make like a 3-point turn to get around it. And I remember, we leaned into the turn, we hit the first angle, and then we're reversing. And I'm like, man, this is a perfect place to put an IED. We're going to be here for a minute. And then I was like looking over the edge, and I see a motorcycle. And I'm like looking at this motorcycle, and I'm like, who
That looks
just
like
leaves a
yeah.
motorcycle
Yeah.
in the
That
side
doesn't
of the
look
street?
right.
I'm having this whole little dialogue with myself. Like, don't people steal things around here? I mean, that's a perfectly good motorcycle. Then I'm like, why is there a pile of dirt underneath? Boom! And I just get rocked, man, and blown across the 7-ton. I was dang near, fortunately not leaning out over the the armor of the truck, but I was like staring at it like, that's stupid, And sure enough, man, it was an IED buried under there. But no, the one that rocked me, I had no choice. No, I was singing a song that I was making up as we were rolling down the street, and my doc just told me to sit back because we'd probably get blown up. And I was just like, yeah, if anything happens, I'll handle it. And yeah, man, that day changed my entire life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have no
It's
idea.
not,
You
and it
just either
never
wake
it
up or you don't.
and it doesn't happen like in textbooks. It doesn't happen like the battle drills. It
Yeah.
things go chaotic, and you go back to your training, and it's sort of like an orchestra that where the automatically like this starts happening and and people need to start moving in position,
Mm-hmm.
going back to their training because that stress and anxiety that happens, man. So I
Yeah.
feel you on that, man. Like that's like I said, there's lessons learned, man. And you've certainly been blown up 5 times. You've probably dealt with every type of IED out there, and there was some scary shit out there, man, in Iraq and
Yeah, man.
in Afghanistan.
I was there for 13 of them that I saw, but yeah, I got hit by 5. I didn't get to go on my last mission because they were like, there were 3 of us that had been blown up more than we should have, and they were like, we're gonna fly you out. And I was like, that was like a big, huge lament that I had was just not being able to ride with my guys on that final movement out of our AO. But they were like, dude, we might get hit, and if we get hit, we can't afford to let you get hit again. So they flew me out. But yeah,
What year were you there, and where were you at?
I was there. Oh,
Oh, you probably did multiple deployments, right?
yeah, I went. So I went on a combat. I got in 04 combat deployment. I think it was like 04 to 05, and then I got out in 2008. So I came back 07 for my second deployment, which was a MEU. And yeah, Haditha, Barwana, Sinjak, all that, the ball sack as they call it. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was there in 04, 05 in Mosul.
we were there the same time, man. We were running around in the sand probably around the same time, man.
Yeah. Hey, man, you think it's crazy? Listen, I did because I was a transportation officer at the time. I was a second, when I deployed, I was a second lieutenant.
Really?
I did 4 years. Yeah, I did 4 years enlisted in the National Guard, and then I got my commissioning, and then I went active duty, and I was stationed with 25th in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And so when they sent me downrange, I was a second lieutenant, fresh out of my officer's course. Didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground, really. I mean, I had that little bit of enlisted time underneath me, but
Yeah.
as far as being a platoon leader, I didn't know what it took, man. And so I had to learn on the ground, had to learn from my NCOs, learn from my
Good.
squad leaders.
Yeah.
And it was a very, very, I guess, a paramount important part of my professional growth.
Yeah.
You think it's crazy, man. Like I was out near the Syrian border dropping some stuff off at a special forces compound out there, and I ran into one of my old drill sergeants. And he didn't remember me, but I just told him, I was like, hey, I was with Alpha 210 Gators in Fort Leonard Wood. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, really? And he started naming off names. It was wild, man. But
dude,
middle of the
I
night,
had an experience like that too, man. And the one thing I want to mention. So I told my story on another podcast. It's pretty amazing, and it just kills me because I got this like military guy in the comments, and he's like, "It's so obvious when you guys are telling lies about what happened in Iraq, talking about how you got blowed up," and I'm like, bro. what I went through was nothing. I got a guy in my platoon who got blown up 10 times. His name was Foster. He got blown up with me, a couple of them. And I was like, this isn't crazy. Like, this is like what happened to Marines there all the time. Like, my story ain't even crazy like some of these. I'm just blessed to have all my digits. But no, that was that. I was just like, you just don't. I mean, you're acting like you've been around the block, but you would know this was the Marine experience. My story is not anything wild, and then the other thing is, yeah, dude. So I get recruited. Of course, when you're not in the military, you think your recruiter's like God of War, Like, I thought my recruiter's the hardest Marine ever, right? So I'm sitting here, and his name was Hopkins, and I'm sitting here. I got out. I've done my 2 deployments, got my T-shirt, and I'm bouncing at the local pub that I got pulled out of to become an executive protection agent. And he comes in with all these Marines, and he's like getting drunk and just crazy. And I'm looking at him, and I'm just watching him because I'm bouncing. And I walk up, and he remembers me, and he's like, Rodgers, da, 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 da. And he's like, and he's like, Rodgers, I finally got put back in an infantry unit. Rodgers, I'm going to war. And I'm like sitting there like, you sent me to war, and you ain't never even. And I just remember like laughing and being annoyed, but laughing. And then he goes, and of course, what he did next? He pulls me close, and he's like, Rodgers, what's combat like? And I'm like, you boot mother.
Was this guy drunk?
He was drunk. He probably don't even remember. He was drunk, and he was like, the question all humans that go to war are wondering, all boots though especially, Rodgers, what's combat like? And I just was like, this is too crazy for me. I told him the same thing my squad leader told me, man. It's a mind job. It's a mind job, man.
Yeah.
I could tell you what it'd be like, but it's like giving birth, homie, until it happens to you. Yeah, it ain't going to help you. You just need to go ahead and get some of that. And hopefully you live, bro.
It changes you. Like, I tell you, by the time my deployment was over with and we were doing left seat, right seat, a lot of the NCOs and the platoon leader and everyone, like when I could see myself. Like, I remember when I was like that. I remember
that energy,
when I was
that frequency,
scared of, right. Like, they were just very, like, when you're outside the wire, you get used to it. You get used to the smells, the sights, the sounds. Like, when it's coming, when it's not coming. Like, you get, it just becomes part of you, man. And I remember we took the new unit out, and they were like fucking on like level 10, right? They're all worried. Oh my God. And I'm like, just relax, like keep your posture, stay behind your crew serve weapons. Like, we're going to roll. We're good.
Yep.
And yeah, man, I love talking to people like you, man. I could go down this rabbit hole forever.
Dude, we could totally keep it, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
I know the vets are soaking it up though, man. It's good for the soul.
It is. And you know what I think is strange now? When I talk to like modern day service members or folks that are just now getting out and they don't have any combat experience. Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's weird for me because
it's
like
weird.
I'm used to walking around Schofield Barracks and everyone has a combat patch.
Dude.
And now it's like
rare. It's rare. Bro, I had a number of guys like starting a few years ago getting into private security, and I remember interviewing them and they're like infantry, and I'm like looking at them because there's a difference between infantry guys that have gone to combat and that haven't. There's just there's a different frequency, right? The different kind of look in their eyes. The combat Marine, right? I remember one of our gunnies came in from the drill field, and he was like, and all this combat Marine stuff, there is no difference between a Marine and a combat Marine. And then we went to combat, and we came back, and he was like, I stand corrected. He's like, there is a difference. Because there really is. Something happens to you as a human being. It just does. And man, I just remember. Oh dang! What was I gonna say, man? I think I lost it, but it'll come back to me once my brain relaxes. But
yeah, no,
I remember.
That's
what it was. There it is. So I'm recruiting for EP details, and infantry guys are coming to me, and they're like, yeah, and they're in the infantry, and they have no combat deployments, and I'm like. And I remember calling up my boys who were still in. I'm like, yo, I got this Marine here, says he's in 11, and he ain't got no deployments. I'm like, and my boy's like, calm down. He's like, that happens now. It's like a really kind of common. And I'm like, I'm like, if you say so, bro. If you,
Mm.
because I was literally like stolen valor. I'm gonna find your stuff, and we're gonna talk for real. But yeah, man, that's a thing. It's
Yeah,
I feel
we
bad
just
for
come
you,
from a different time, man. Like
man. Yeah, bro.
when we were going through it, you had Iraq, you had Afghanistan, and
You were getting.
everybody was deploying every
Yep.
year,
Everybody's getting some.
and so yeah, man, I definitely came back a totally different person. But I don't want to continue down the rabbit hole, man. I want to get on talking about what you're doing right now with
Okay.
executive security protection. And
Yeah.
for folks out there that might be interested in executive security, executive protection,
Yeah.
can you explain the differences between the levels of security? Like I
Yeah.
know there's armed and unarmed, but can you talk about the levels of basic security versus executive security, the expectations and the
Yeah.
responsibilities?
Yeah, man. 100%. So like there's the thing that kills me about the industry is if you say private security, like a lot of people are thinking like Paul Blart Mall Cop, like they're not really
Right.
realizing that there's a whole like underworld like of really high end security services out there that are running around in plain clothes, doing all kinds of really cool things, guarding NASA spaceships right now. So like private security reaches into almost every protection centric kind of job field. Now, you have your square badge guys at the mall and at housing communities and your patrol one guys you see, but that's kind of everybody, right? Executive protection is like 1% of the private security in industry. It's like the NFL. It's like the big leagues. It's like so and we need everyone in the industry. I'm not talking down to anybody, but so you have your guards, then you have kind of like your bouncers, obviously, that you guys see. I love taking bouncers into executive protection because they have so much experience with social dynamics and being hands-on and being able to use restraint and being able to actually get physical if necessary. So sometimes I get guys that have lived, like it's almost like college boys or guys that aren't putting in the work to be actual protectors that are kind of, and executive protection is very clean. So you won't get challenged very often. And if you do, probably you did something wrong, really. But I love taking bouncers because they already have all the like hard skills to deal with someone if they need to, and they're not afraid to, right? But anyways, and vets, I love bringing in vets. So anyway, so you have your guards, you have those services, then you have, your bouncers. It's a little bit more one level up from guards, and then you have like bodyguards, which is really it's the most commonly known term for an executive protection agent, but really a bodyguard is just your close protection guy. So within like a group, you have your detail leader who's running the detail. Your close protection guy would really be most appropriately called a bodyguard, even though it's a slang term for a lot of what we do. It's a term I'd say to a civilian so they know what I'm talking about. But executive protection, this is where, and it's kind of a misnomer because, while I do executive protection, it's not that I just protect executives. I protect celebrities. I protect high net worth families. I protect sometimes valuables, and sometimes, I've flown around the country in a private jet protecting Botox and a scientist, So we do a lot of really high end security operations kind of under the banner of executive protection. But executive protection is where you're coordinating everything from the concierge aspect of it, the movement, you're interfacing with local law enforcement, and you're, planning the trip, you're interfacing with the travel agencies, making sure everything at all the residents are locked on. You're doing a lot of actual administrative support and advanced work and risk assessments. You're going into countries days prior to your client to assess risk and to make sure all your POIs and all your points of contact are solid and that everything with that trip is going to go good and the climate is right for your client to actually come through. So it's a lot more schoolboy stuff, a lot more complicated than just, hey, I'm landing with my client and riding with them where they go and making sure they don't get mauled by paparazzi. We'll avoid paparazzi altogether, So, yeah, man, there's definitely levels. And, one of my passions is taking people, regardless of background, and making them into good executive protection agents and get them into the industry.
Yeah. Do you find that soft skills are kind of hard to teach?
Yeah, man. Soft skills. We have a saying at my school, the league. Soft skills are what keep you in this game and get you paid. Hard skills save lives, but soft skills get you in this game and keep you paid and keep you getting paid. And there's kind of pitfalls that military and law enforcement folks deal with, and civilians. Like all of us have our strengths and weaknesses in terms of generalizations. Like the military guy, like even me. Fortunately, I've always had great social dynamics, but coming from Iraq and IEDs and snipers and all that trash into private jets and like the aristocratic being in palaces and around
Right.
the who's whoosies and all this stuff right at the in the royal court at the king's table. It was tough, man. Military guys shaving off the rough edges and learning how to value your clients culture is tough because we come from such honorable, hardcore cultures that we had to train and earn our place in, and we want people to honor those cultures. But hey, guess what? In this new game, you're in their ecosystem, and you might get hired because you're a Navy SEAL. Yeah, they might think that's cool. They may think that might be the shiny thing that gets you hired. But our clients and customers get tired of Lamborghinis, homie. So guess what? You're the flavor of the month, and if you don't get the right social dynamics and learn how to present yourself and speak, interface with all the different spheres of influence from the royal court, the entourage, the friends, the families, all the relationships around your customer, the team you just got integrated with. If you can't get your social dynamics right, you will not last in this game. I don't care how cool you are, how ninja your background is. You won't make money very long. And that's the number one thing. Cops, they have to learn how to get everything done without a badge. They have to learn how to get things done. You ain't got no superpowers no more. So you know what I'm saying? So you've got to learn how to use your social dynamics to get people to want to do things for you, and want to be on your team to make sure your client has the best experience. Civilians, God bless the civilians. Sometimes they have an edge because they can be like me. Like I went to work just like this. My clients want me to look more like a dude. They're just like, if you ever wear a suit, we're going to fire you. We just basically want you to be another dude walking around. If something gets weird, you can move into the space and the person will know to go away, and that's it, And
Mm-hmm.
so, it's not like people think it is very often. Civilians, they can have a tendency to just be too relaxed because they haven't learned that military discipline and how to sit on post and watch and take everything seriously. But they have an advantage. A lot of civilian clientele feel more comfortable with a civilian hanging out with them than they do with someone who's got like a high and tight horseshoe, may have a dip in, and is ready to like smoke anybody who's keeping 360-degree security around them at all times and might want to smoke anybody who walks up, clotheslining little old ladies as they walk up to clients. True story. True story. I was on the radio. Dude, no. Come back. Let her go. Let her go. Oh, man.
Sounds hard.
Oh, boy. When you work with your Marine buddies, good times.
I know, right? I know. Hey, listen, man. I've worked with a lot of Marines. A lot of my friends are Marines, and a lot of Marines have a heart of gold, man.
Yeah,
They're
man.
fight to the death attitude.
Yep.
Yeah, man. It's just at at the end of the day, I think some people fit the characteristics of their branches, and some people don't. I've worked with a lot of smart Marines too, like
Mm-hmm.
guys that I thought were in the Air Force or something, but no, they were really Marines. And I'm very fortunate to be connected with those types of folks. And I
That's
love
awesome.
what you said about posture. Like you
Yeah.
have to know how, like some civilians may not know how to posture when necessary,
Right.
or how to send a message like, hey, like
Not right
back
now.
off, basically. And
Yep.
you got to be able to pull in like that, right? To be
Oh,
able
yeah.
to let folks know that you mean business and,
Yep.
and that you're being serious about it. And
And do it
I've
cleanly so that the person
yeah,
walks away and doesn't cause an issue. Like I
right,
can do it with a
right.
smile. And that's been one of the most effective things. I was with another Marine who was from the hood who rolled up on a little Jewish. We were in Israel, rolled up on a Jewish dude and was like, "Hey, like you ain't gonna go past here." Starting to flex up on this little Jewish dude. The little Jewish dude ain't taking no crap from nobody. He's like,
Right.
"Who the do you think you are?" And then they're getting into it, and I had to roll up and be like, "Sir, we have a live recording going on over here.
Right.
Can you please just give us a few moments?" And the dude's like, "Well, because you were respectful,
Yeah, I know.
I will give you a few moments, but you need to talk to your boy over here."
Yeah, I know, right?
And I had
I know,
to tell
right?
my dude, just let it slide. We're working
Right.
right now. We're working.
Right.
But, Yeah, man.
saved yourself from doing a lot of paperwork too, right?
100%, man. Or just getting fired on the spot because your client doesn't feel like you're representing their brand correctly because
Yeah,
you represent every move you make. You represent them. But I love working with Marines, man. They follow orders. They don't complain. I can depend on that discipline. Man, I
yeah,
love being able to depend on that discipline, man. It's a huge value add.
yeah, yeah. No doubt, man. It's fascinating to hear you talk about the hard skills and the soft skills when it comes to the business itself. Now, when it comes to the different levels of training,
Mhm.
um, security and executive protection, is it guided by a preferred industry training front runner? Like, is there a specific, like, this is the top tier type of training that you can go through? And how can a professional, maybe getting out of the military or veteran, put him or herself ahead of the pack when joining the security protection industry?
Wow. This is I hate this question because I'm partial.
I
You know
kind
what
of
I mean?
figured.
I'm
Yeah, I
partial.
know. I
There
know.
there
I
are
kind
like
of figured.
there are three kind of Ivy League schools that are well known.
Yeah.
I essentially joined forces with one of them, um, based on my industry experience and having trained with many of them. We created, at the league, we created what I believe is the best package to get someone into the industry. I looked around at the space and I was kind of like, well, this is good, but a lot of it was very soft skill centric. And a lot of it was, I went through one of the courses, we didn't fire a single round and we did zero combatives. And it was just like really PC. And I was like, okay, so we know these dudes know how to do admin and like they know which fork to use at a dinner party, but like, can they protect anyone? So I entered the industry focusing on um, the hard skills and making sure guys have solid driving. We offer the highest level of driving, contact driving, pit maneuver, counter pit, rams, barricades, all that stuff. Actually car fighting, pistol work, a full firearms package, low light, no light attack on principle, everything, medical, like the three primary hard skills. But I coupled it with the thing that I have not seen anywhere else in the industry, which is online training. So you have access to the training your entire life and also ongoing mentorship. So you have someone, me or one of my instructors, meeting with you every 2 weeks over Zoom to make sure you actually get in the industry and you actually are able to have a successful career. Whether it's how can I find my next job, or I have to go to a country and do an advance for a client. Well, hey, go back to that module online and let's link up on the next call and I'll walk you through what I would do. Here are my connections. And then I joined that with a network. So all of our students, we have a private group, we have a network, we share field craft, we share opportunities, jobs, everything. So the thing I thought what I saw was missing was most schools, you go there, you get trained, and then you go out into the industry and good luck. Like, okay, I hope that brand really helps you get a job. Your client's probably not even going to look at your training jacket. Maybe a training director is, and they're not going to care what stupid EP school you went to because they don't even know what they're looking at. You know what I'm saying? All that's going to matter is what you can do. And so I joined that solid, some of the best training that you can find with ongoing mentorship and assets to make sure your career is actually going to be successful. I'm there with you when you fail. I'm there with you when what I taught you didn't work. I'm there with you when it does work. So there are like top three, EPI, ESI, Bob Oatman, Pacific West is another big one. But I'll tell you that, the League of Executive Protection Specialists is the only one offering you that much support uh, with your tuition.
Yeah.
Come find
So
me.
you basically took sounds like you took a combination of all your training and you combined it into sort of a hybrid of
Yeah.
systems that would be necessary, and it's sort of the right balance of what you would actually experience to include the follow-up mentorship to make
Yep.
sure that you're gliding
Yep.
and that you're making it. And I
Yeah.
think that's great, man. That sounds like a great system to have. And thankful that we have folks like you, not just running the system but improving the system, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, 'cause your
Um,
network is your net worth, man. Without having high quality relationships, opportunities are not going to find you. And so, like, solving that problem was absolutely huge. And then the fact that you can do the first level of training day online. You don't have to stop working and lose money. You can actually start your training. You can start getting, I teach you how to do your resume and LinkedIn and everything I know about EP. And you can start getting into the game like through the computer. And I was the first to do it in our industry. And everyone told me it couldn't be done and not to do it. And now everyone's starting to try to do their online thing. And I'm like, you're sitting here like, you guys all told me not to do it. And it was impossible. But here we are. Change the game,
yeah.
man. So I'm
I'm,
from I'm
I'm, at,
from the people. I'm an agent, so I know what the guys out there need. I did 2 details today, like this is how we get
yeah.
down.
I'm actually on the website right now. I was taking a look at the training itself, and this looks awesome, man. I love how you have the different modules, and then you have the different levels on here, and you actually have folks on here as well that look like sort of masterclass guest speakers. I'll
Yeah.
make sure I include us all of this in the show notes for anyone out there that might
Awesome.
be interested. And
Yeah.
so while we're here, man, let's bust down some of the myths about executive protection. That you've heard over the years, and that maybe we can either debunk or maybe we can certify. What are some of the ones that are out there that you hear most often?
Well, I think and I actually have a module on this in the online course because the things to watch out for, man, is the cognitive dissonance that can result, and it happened to me coming from like a high speed background into executive protection and thinking that you're going to be like this person that your client's going to listen to, or like that your client cares about your tactical background, or that you're going to be running and gunning and doing anything tactical and cool at work. And the reality is, it's just not like that, man. You're
Right.
serving high net worth individuals and corporations in corporate environments, or you're serving, acting and singing talent that may very well be in ultra woke environments. So you're kind of like a black sheep, like they wish they didn't have you, but you're there, and
Hmm.
so they have to do something with you. You're so your like combative background and all these different things matter way less than you think. Like the thing you have to be like John Wick, but like in many cases to yourself. I got lucky and I have some pretty cool clients that are, pro gun, pro America, pro God and country, which is pretty cool. And they get behind us. We get awesome training, and things like that. And they do value our tactical capabilities. So that's nice. But 9 times out of 10, man, military dudes fall out because they get into the industry and they're like, dude, like, I don't want to put the car seat in the car. Like, I don't want to go get a coffee for this person. That's not what I'm here for. Like I held life and death in my hands like just a month ago.
Right.
I was in charge of millions of dollars. Literally the Rambo speech. I was in charge of millions of dollars worth of equipment. I was, you know
I
what
was somebody.
I mean? Literally, bro. And then, so you have to be able to make that leap and realize you're in a service oriented industry and you're here to render high quality service. And the way I did it was I told myself, hey, this is an honorable service that warriors have been selected and set apart to do since the beginning of Pimpin's Been Pimpin'. The Praetorian Guard, the samurais, like protecting the nobility of the time is something that you need to be. It's the next thing for a warrior to do. So I really was able to find a lot of honor in it, and I still tell my clients it's an honor. And having that servant's heart with regards to what we do and looking at it as, an honorable service and realizing it's what you do when you're not at work that makes you capable of performing at work. Because, me, I always say it, it's more than just a job. If you're a protector, it's more than just a job, as a lifestyle. Uh, like being all in like that is really what makes it an honorable service, knowing that you got to outperform another human being in a dynamic and violent situation, preparing for that moment. That is what keeps me alive. It's what keeps the warrior alive in me and, stops him from killing me. Like what happens to many warriors when they get out and they never find a mission. So the first one I would probably lean into is just like, this ain't high speed and tactical like you might want to think it is. It's very service oriented. And your high speed and your tactics, it's like a sword that you keep sheathed. And your honor has so much more to do with how long you can keep it sheathed. and never having to draw it than actually having to do violence, you know.
Wow. I didn't want to say anything while you were saying that because that's a very well said remark about, keeping your sword sheath as long as
Thank you.
possible, because it's more about your actions prior to any
Hmm.
type of actionable event. Like, it's how
Yeah.
you deal with people, how you talk to people,
Yep.
how the presence that
Hmm.
you have about you that
Yeah.
can really deter you from escalating things. And so
100%.
wow, it's fascinating to talk to someone like you, because I completely know where you're coming from with that. And I
Thank
want
you.
to give you a chance, man, to talk about the Bravo Research Group. Would you
Yeah.
mind telling us about its mission and
Yeah.
the values that the business seeks when looking for possibly new security detail members to join the ranks?
Yeah, man. No, so my security company, man, has become one of my, I love executive protection. But leading teams has become one of the like honors of my life, man. Like I had today, I had a guy on a detail. We went through a training. We did CQB at an airsoft driven, like CQB house out here in Anaheim, and we're working on client recovery and moving with our customers, moving with our clients, and force on force and all that stuff. And we get back, and dude's put together a whole bunch of information. He's created like modules on what we've learned. This is like stuff for all the guys that weren't able to make it because they were working. Like dudes put together videos and stuff to make sure that we're all on the same page with SOPs that we tightened up while we were there. And so when I'm looking for our mission, man, is really just simply seamless security. We want to integrate with our clients' lives in a way that keeps them really safe, productive, and happy, like a company called AS Solutions talks about. We don't want to be the reason my emblem is an integer of the periodic chart is because we are one element. We are the element of security. Now, that client's life has a financial element, a professional element, all these different missions, and we're just the one element of security on that board that helps optimize and help them do what they are there to do to support their mission. And so, really, when I look for new agents, man, I love a military background. I love a law enforcement background. I love a civilian background. Civilians often come to me, military guys, law enforcement guys sometimes come to me thinking they know what to do. And I run an NDOC for a lot of our details, and they got to pass basic law enforcement quals, FBI qual, military, just pistol quals, not performance drills, right? Not performance assessments,
Mhm.
quals, right? Baseline stuff. And a lot of my law enforcement guys and military guys struggle, and I constantly hear like, oh, well, we never use pistols in the military. I'm like, yeah, but you got to use a pistol for work now. Like,
Yeah.
wait, what have you been doing this entire time you've been working, carrying a pistol on? And you're going to tell me this. You're going to tell me this while you're interviewing. You know what I mean? Like, you should
Right.
have worked this out. Yeah, I can't get jiggy with these men. So like,
Right.
I the civilians on the other hand, they're the guys that are kind of shy and kind of humble, and they're kind of like, well, like I don't have the cool background, but I hit jujitsu a couple times a week, like 3 times a week, and I've been training. I go to the range, a couple times a week, and they're currently working on themselves because they don't have the cool guy background, and they tend to be the
Mhm.
most dangerous people out there with me. Actually, my mentor is a civilian, black belt at AOJ Jiu-Jitsu, master class competitive shooter. He's a dangerous human. He just killed a huge buck like 10 minutes ago. He just texted me about it. But anyways,
Wow.
the values I'm looking for in individuals is a servant heart, man. They have to be able to find the honor in being able to serve. I want guys that are contribution centric. You don't have to be the biggest, you don't have to be the baddest, you don't have to be the best, but your gift, your service will make room for you before kings. And that's how I've built my every brand that I've built. And I built, a couple of them, right? So you give quality, you give constantly to your detail, to your organization, to your clients, and to your teams. Excellence, guys that have that I don't want a guy that wants to do a good job because he's working with Byron Rodgers or because he's working with BRG or because he's working with cool celebrity or CEO client. I want the guy that's going to do a good job because his last name's attached to it, and he's like, I'm going to do a good job because you know what, Byron Rodgers did it, and this work is going to represent the pride I have in myself, and humility, man. I want guys that are professional students. I want guys that fear arrogance. And so those are kind of the values that I'm always looking for when I interact with dudes who are looking to come on our teams, man. Guys that have an empty cup and a good engine, because we all got to be
Yeah.
juggernauts. That's the other thing. I want guys that
Yeah.
are all decision makers, all generals, every single one of them.
Yeah, they have to be a person that you can actually mold, and someone that has a good baseline, and it all starts with the um, employment side of things, and bringing in the right people, and that's where it all starts as far as getting people that can represent you as well.
And that's kind of what I tell them. That is exactly what I tell guys. I'm like, hey, you got to realize that you represent a few brands, man. When you're on this detail, you represent our customer's brand. Every single thing you do represents them. So you got to know that. You got to look like that. You got to carry yourself like that. You got to keep yourself physically fit like that. When people look at you, you represent this individual who's paying you. Also, you got to know that you represent BRG. You represent my brand, and we got high standards. So you've got to look like that, carry yourself like that. And then finally, and most importantly, in many cases, you got to realize you represent your brand. So when I come in here and I see that you didn't do changeover properly, or that you didn't make your rounds, or that you're not being proactive with your advanced work, this is the quality of work that I can expect from you. And then I have to make an assessment whether that quality work is something that I'm going to accept my clients and customers either putting up with or benefiting from, right? And so that's kind of the
Mhm.
conversation. And then if you've been to my school, I tell all the patrons of the course, and now you represent the gold standard in the private security industry. You represent the league. So, wear that banner with pride, man. Pride in the right things, man. That's the trick.
I love the name of it, man. I love the name of it and the modules and everything you have set up. I was just cruising through over here on my other screen, like all the different things that's offered through your training for the league, and man, it's
Oh,
it's
thanks, man.
you cover everything. You literally cover everything from medical to live fire to just
Driving.
professionalism. Threat assessment, the whole 9 yards. It's all covered in
Yeah.
here.
We have one
It's
more.
fascinating, man.
We have one more new course we're rolling out, which is the immersion course, which is essentially the antithesis to most of what you see in the industry. And we spend a few hours getting back on you get your modules online. You show up on the first day. We go over a few things you're supposed to know from online, and then we just start doing EP details. We hire actors, and it is just nothing but on the job training for 6 days straight. Real world. I'm out in the field with you. We're out in the field guiding you, doing assessments. It's like the most real world uh, training that our industry has, man. Nonstop real world training, man. So that's coming in January, the immersion course.
Wow. And is that going to be done here in California?
Yeah, man, you'll be all over LA doing security details. It's gonna
Wow.
be totally realistic with us, man. So it's an honor. It's a good time.
Yeah, it sounds exciting, man. So, before we wrap up the podcast today, Byron, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any final pieces of advice for anyone out there that might be looking at getting into the industry, or just any pieces of advice in general for our listeners, based off of anything that you've learned over the entirety of your life or your career that I didn't cover today?
Well, how much time you got, buddy? No, if I was gonna say something about advice, if I was gonna give someone advice, I would really want to say something like, you never ever really, really know what you can do until you try, and and try a lot and try hard. Um, I always wanted to be something. I always wanted to make contributions. I was so blessed that I didn't like do anything really cool. I mean, I was in the infantry, but I wasn't like a Navy SEAL or like Delta Force, like, so I think maybe it would have made me rest on my laurels a little bit. Um, but I've been able, by the grace of God, to do a lot, like when you're introducing me, and every time I hear it, it's like, man, golly, man, you put some miles, you put some trash down, man. You put some miles in, man. Like between publishing a book and getting my master's degree, I was afraid of school. That's why I went to half the reason I went to the Marine Corps is I was like, I ain't going to college. Like I'll go to war right dang
Right.
now. Like that was half of it. And then coming back and facing those fears and being able to, really bless people's lives, and having dudes that I respect look me in my eyes and say, dude, I got a job because of you. I'll feed my family. I'm making 6 figures because of, the free content you put out, and or because of what we did at the school. And like, and turning out to be kind of a pretty capable, kind of cool dude, like, and being able to be proud of yourself and being able to have self-respect and being able to look at the work of your hands and be like, man, you know what? Like, respecting yourself and knowing that you've been a good steward with what you got. But the thing is, on that journey, you don't start out special. You know what I mean? Like, you're not special because you are special because you're here. Like, yeah, over a million different outcomes could have happened while you were a sperm, dude. Like, you have
Right.
over, like, it's like some stupid number of hundreds of grandparents that had to get it right with the combination and all the stuff that got you here supporting this little thing we're doing. And like,
Right.
you're special on like baseline special, but like, I didn't start out as anybody worth knowing, valuable to people. And I just want people to know that no matter where you're starting from, if you put in the stinking work, man. I've been mediocre at so many things my entire life. I still don't even read fast enough to catch the captions at the bottom of the movies half the time. If you follow me on Instagram, you're going to see that I misspell stuff sometimes. But I don't wait for it to be perfect in order to pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying? I am willing to go and I'm willing to fight. And I'm willing to sacrifice weaker versions of myself on the altar of progress every single stinking day. And if you ever look at anything I've done and think it's cool, I just want everyone to know what one imperfect person can do if they are dedicated to becoming better, if they're dedicated to sacrificing weaker versions of themselves on the altar of progress by the grace of God over the course of a lifetime. So that it's one of the most powerful things. You don't know how much weight you can lose if you can really become dedicated to doing it and say, you know what, I've had enough stinking hamburgers and ice cream. You know what I'm going to do this next year? Forget about 90 days, 21 days. I'm going hard in the paint at getting my six pack. I'm going to die over it. And dude, there is nothing that can stop you but you. And that's kind of what I really want people to know, man. That's almost always my message is like, you are the only thing. Every problem you're facing, there are humans who've done 100 times more with way less than anybody watching this podcast has got. And so you got to get real with yourself. And you got to love yourself enough to be hard on yourself by the grace of God to bring the best out of yourself. And that's what I think this game is about. Your contribution you make from the power you gain from that lifestyle. That's the fight you
Yeah.
got to, if you were a warrior, especially, that's a fight worth living and dying for. And that's how you
Yeah.
live every single day.
I agree with you 100%, man. I deal with it all the time. Like, even believe it or not, my 8-year-old, she's trying to do YouTube, and I set
Yeah,
her up in a room, and she's afraid to
yeah,
go in there and sucking and being horrible
yeah,
at YouTube. And I
yeah.
told her tonight, I said, look, go in there and be horrible 10, 15, 20, 50 times, whatever.
100 dang.
Each and every single time, it gets better. It gets
Yeah.
better each and every
Yep.
time. And it's the same thing with me, man. Ever since my first interview, to where I am now. I mean,
Yeah, bro.
I'm sitting in front of an industry titan right now. I started out interviewing my dad in 3 episodes, and here I am. I have
Love it.
Byron Rodgers on my podcast, man. So it's an honor
It's an
to
honor,
have
man.
you here, and it's an honor to have to hear your values and your accountability and where you stand and everything that your business is about. So I really appreciate that. And for anyone out there that's looking to get into the industry, I would say that a great place to start would be to scroll down to the show notes or the description and to click on his epspecialist.com website, where it's going to show you what the league is all about, the training itself. Do you have any other recommendations for folks that are interested in joining the security protection industry?
No, man, that is honestly it. I created that school from a place of being out there in the industry by myself and having to figure it out by myself. And I wasn't Secret Service or any of these other things, that people have built schools on. I was a dude that got out of the Marine Corps. That got thrust into one of the most active private security details at age 21. It's the only job I've ever had, and I, hit 60 countries in the first year. I built my career from the door bouncing as a bouncer in California, and then I did it again in Florida. I went right back to the door in Florida bouncing and built it all over again. So I know what works. I've helped hundreds of agents get into this industry. I've helped a bunch of dudes transition from the military. I've helped a bunch of dudes from being baristas at Starbucks be like, you know what, I think I want to try to. I have a protector in me, and I hate my day job, so I want to try and be a professional protector. And I've helped hundreds of law enforcement guys get into one of the fastest growing industries, and one of the most well compensated industries next to like the medical industry right now. in the world, man. And it's so cool because you don't have to go into like college debt to do it, which is like a thing.
Right.
If you're a
Yeah.
veteran, not so much, but you know what I mean? So that's the way,
Right.
man. And I will be with you every step of the way in your career. And you'll have a whole tribe of people doing your career with you. You'll never be alone
Yeah. And for anyone out there who is meeting Byron for the first time and you're not following him on any of his social media accounts, follow this man. You'll find his content extremely interesting. The captions will explain the lessons learned. And that's what I find most fascinating about him. And I had to get him on the Morning Formation podcast once I found out that he's a combat Marine. You know, again, scroll down to the show notes. You'll find his TikTok. You'll find his LinkedIn. You'll find his Instagram down there as well. Are you on Facebook?
I'm on YouTube. YouTube's the other big one because there you can watch
YouTube?
everything. And then Facebook. Yes, I am on
Okay.
Facebook, but it's like second and third line effects. You know what I mean? I have my fan page there.
Yeah.
That's probably where you get the most out of it.
Yeah, I'm not a real fan of Facebook.
don't
I think it's kind of the oldie things.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
into the
I'm not a big
Instagram,
fan.
TikTok.
It's all about the
Yeah.
gram and YouTube for me and TikTok. I don't know if I'm gonna survive on TikTok. I do too much gun stuff, bro. They're angling on me. They're hunting for your boy. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna make it. But YouTube and IG, I got a stronghold.
It was odd, man. Last weekend, right after Thanksgiving, I got banned on Instagram for no reason. Like literally lost my account for 3 days. I had to appeal it, and I don't even put anything on there. That was the weird thing. But I had heard that I had heard that there's a group out there that's doing that. That's somehow reporting, I guess, profiles and accounts and things like that. So I had it back in 3 days. Yeah. So I was like
Wow.
sweating bullets because I put a lot of effort into that, a lot of time and energy into my Instagram. So
Dude, 100%. That's why I got like 5 platforms on there. I'm like a chimera, dude. I'll pop up in the next profile in 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
I need the coffee you're drinking, man. I love your energy, man, and I love like the places that you've been. You and I have a lot in common, actually,
Yeah.
just over the years professionally, and looking forward to doing more work with you and connecting with you even more. So, just want to thank you, man, for giving me this opportunity tonight to interview you, get to know a little bit about your business.
Yeah,
I'll make sure I put the link for your book down there as well as
thank you.
all your different websites that because you're involved in so many damn things. It's like,
No, thanks, man.
you know,
It's an honor. And then, yes, real quick, since this is a veteran podcast, the book is Finding Meaning After the Military. And it's really the tools I used during my transition, going from, the Marine Corps into the first civilian division. And so if you're struggling with finding meaning, this book is really the tools that help save my life. One, because that's a whole nother podcast. Because there's a whole story there that I'm glad I survived.
yeah.
Or if you know a veteran who's struggling, man, that needs to find meaning, because it's all about finding that new fight, dude, and then leveraging everything that we took from the military into what can be very glorious in the civilian sector, in the civilian life.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely, man. We've all had our dark days, and at the end of the day, we have to be self-aware enough to pull ourselves out of those dark days and find that light again. So, I mean, we've all been there. I've been there, and
Oh, me too, bro.
check out the book because if you know someone that's there, maybe it can help them out and help them pull them through. So, Byron, thank you so much for your time this evening. I really appreciate it, man. You're a busy man. Thank you for all the value that you provided for the podcast. I'm looking forward to connecting with you even further. But for everyone else out there, all the listeners, thank you for listening. And as always, I want you to stay tuned, stay focused, and stay motivated. Warriors, fall out.
We like to do beating. And we like to do beating.